Business with a servant's heart. Welcome to the podcast. Inspiration, motivation takes. Listen to the podcast. We're all about to talk about life. Our guests will share their life story. We want you to success in life and business. We're ready and we will start shortly. We're gonna talk about life. We're going to speak on business. You're gonna shine bright. We are going to witness. Business with a servant's heart. With hosts Steve, Ramon, and Ray. Inspiration, education talks. Listen to the podcast.
Welcome, everyone, to Doing Business with a Servant's Heart podcast. I'm your host, Steve Ramona, and I'm so happy and thrilled to have you join us today. We dedicated this podcast exploring the idea of doing life and business with a servant's heart. When you approach your work and lives with that mentality, you're going to make a difference. Try it. Serve somebody today, serve yourself today, and create impact. And the key word there is today, because I talked to a lot of people listening to my podcast, like, I heard you, and I waited a month. Well, I told them, of course, go serve. But when you get done with my incredible guest today, listening to her and learning from her and being motivated, inspired, go ahead and serve. Let's make a difference in your world, which will eventually make a difference in the whole world. And I want to thank my incredible sponsor, Pantheon Alliance. Imagine being part of an exclusive community of high-income, successful business owners and entrepreneurs from very diverse industries. Together, they're building a thought leader platform to change and impact the world. That's why I love having them as a sponsor. It's the same thing. Let's make an impact every day, little or large, and things will be great. Now, speaking of impact, some of you know I was part of a health club for 22 years, and health and wellness was a big part of it. We really focused on that. And even more today, wellness is huge. Just think COVID. I mean, I've talked to people that haven't left their house for 3 years and still haven't left their house because of fear. And I'm not going to get into that. But is that wellness? We're going to find out from my incredible guest, Mara. Is it Mara? Did I say it right, Mara?
You did, Steve. So nice to be with you.
Yes, I got it right. Love when I get names right. So, Mara, let's talk about wellness, the impact of COVID. I just thought about this, but it's a huge impact. What have you seen?
Yeah, so absolutely. Steve, in my work, what I do is work with executive leaders and teams on both their leadership and their wellness. And of course, from a corporate perspective, I think folks are coming out of COVID still. So a lot of offices still haven't come out of hybrid. There's still a hybrid type of virtual situation. That has changed the dynamics. That also includes mental, emotional, physical health that was impacted. And gosh, it's 4 years since it originally happened, right? So pretty amazing. And when I look at it from a workplace perspective, it's really about helping that individual, if they are still working remote, to be able to look at themselves through whole person care, if you will. So I also am affiliated with the GW Center for Integrative Medicine. And that is about saying, hey, we've got to look at the entirety of the individual. And so that's about looking at it from mind, body, spirit, and emotions. And spirit can be defined as your passion, or it can be an actual religion that you're a part of, or a spiritual community. So whatever that is, and ironically, I use that exact same thing when I'm working with leaders, because their leadership is going to get better when they have that whole person aspect brought into it, because whatever's happening in your personal life is also showing up in your leadership styles too. So it's one and the same.
That's powerful. And I like that, not to diminish what happened with the deaths of COVID, but what a lesson people have learned and should learn from this if you're in business or an entrepreneur. Speaking of leadership, and you're doing such a unique way of teaching leadership, and I think multiple ways are good. We need to keep talking about this. Well, what leadership qualities do you think are vital for these CEOs, founders, high-level executives?
Yeah, we're going through changing times. And so as we see us move into this new era of, and certainly AI is one of them that shows up at the moment with companies having to transform and think about how they're going to adapt AI. they've got to, as leaders, be able to address kind of how they're incorporating that aspect, and so it's fascinating when you think about it. As a leader, you've got to be able to have that mission and vision very much in your mind, and be able to come up with new services and products faster than we've ever had to do before. And we know that things are speeding up in so many ways. And so companies are feeling that too. And so for really a big perspective is being able to take that creative aspect and to be able to then manifest it and move it forward. So I think that's in part what companies are having to do right now, is to recognize that there's changing times, changing dynamics, and we've got to really address that in a holistic approach as well.
Yeah, holistic is the key, because it'll stand the test of time. I mean, that was back in 78 to 2000 when we had the health club. Holistic was working back then. There was yoga, breath work, and all that. So it's never going away.
Right.
People out there don't believe it. It's here for good, because it's been around centuries. As you talked about, what was that Chinese I never say
Qigong. Yeah.
Qigong. So, how long has it been? Thousands of years it's been around, right?
Thousands. Well, yoga's been around for thousands,
Okay,
right?
there you go. Yeah.
Yeah. And when you think about it, this is what I loved when I worked also in the healthcare field, is really these techniques were before we ever had a healthcare system. We had these ways of looking at the whole person and helping to address whatever illness was taking place at that point. And every culture had its way of addressing a scenario of what was taking place. Now we have a traditional healthcare system, which is amazing. It's all good. And we're also seeing that we need to adopt in these whole person aspects, because of course things aren't separated, right? They're all part of all of the same, all of the same. I can't speak that, but basically it's all the same. So yes. And I think one of the things I found was, doctors will say to an individual, we're seeing that you have a lot of chronic stress. And they recognize as a doctor that they need to let the patient know that there's chronic stress. The fascinating component to that is then the patient leaves the office, and what do they do with that? What is chronic stress? And chronic stress can be emotional things coming up for you. It can be feeling under pressure, which of course is emotional. It can be limiting beliefs and thoughts, but you have to delve deeper into it to be able to understand what's taking place. And so I think the times are changing because people want to connect the dots between what's taking place physically, emotionally, and mentally. And you see that with Simone Biles and other Olympic champions who have shown you've really got to be fully in the game. You've got to really be looking at all aspects of this.
Yeah, Michael Phelps is another guy I think of. He talks about his mental health journey that he's going through. And what's interesting, what you're doing, there's a tool for business. Let's say it's a process to manufacture something. Well, that stays in business. What you do, which I love, crosses from business to life. Mm-hmm. I do my meditation, my yoga in business, but also I can do it in my life. So I'm having stress in my life, my personal life, I can use these same tools, correct?
Correct. Absolutely. And, to your point, first of all, your personal life and your leadership, we used to think they were separate. They really aren't. There's so much that your same behaviors are showing up in both places one way or another. And if you want to be a great leader, you've got to be aware of that. And that's in part what emotional intelligence is about, is being self-aware of how you're showing up. And then the next part, which I think is critically important, is that self-regulation. And that's where wellness and well-being shows up. Is what I find when I work with leaders is everybody's slightly different as to how they get to that state of self-regulation. And we have to work with you to develop that specific plan on self-regulation. So what does that look like? For some people, it might be breathing techniques. For other people, it may be going for a vigorous jog that's going to help them out. But ironically, with leaders too, they realize that when they self-regulate, they are able to get the clarity they need to make better business decisions. So it really does help your performance, as well as, just helping you out overall. So it's such an important component, right?
No, and I love, because people are like, here, holistic and wellness, the woo-woo, the spirit. I'm glad you mentioned that, because any leader that's in business, if you can make their business better and they can be more effective, because that's the ROI in the room. I've got a business, Mara. I've got to make money. We're not making money right now. How can a corporate wellness program do that for me? So that's my next question. And I kind of delved into a bunch of others. That's what I'm sure you hear, and I know I'll hear. Okay, that's great, but how do they work?
Right. How does this all work? Well, this is fascinating. Just from a physical perspective, so because I have that healthcare background, we always frame it under the autonomic nervous system. So we have that kind of fight or flight response that gets the body revved up and for that proverbial lion that's about to jump out at us. But that also really connects us to our mind. And our mind's a wonderful source. It's analytical. It helps to compare and contrast. You absolutely need it. But it also does those things of making those mental ruminations where we can't make a decision, where we can't really stay in the present moment, right? And so what you have to do is get over to that parasympathetic side, that rest and digest, that place of calmness, to be able to also tap into your creativity. So in healthcare, we call it a state of homeostasis. When I work with leaders, I'm saying we've got to develop your own plan for how we get into that state of homeostasis so that as a leader, you have better performance and can really respond more quickly on things, but also have time for that creativity so that you're really helping the company grow to the next level too. So it's kind of a package deal.
Right. So I've read through your bio, mind, body, spirit techniques you do,
Uh-huh.
and you integrate that into that. How's that? You've got Mr. CEO. How do
Yeah.
you integrate that?
Love it. So great question. So we're talking with the CEO, and I might find that they can't really sit down and just meditate. So we're going to incorporate techniques to help them move from a state of fight or flight to a state of the parasympathetic, right? The rest and digest. So in essence, we might talk about having them do, if necessary, walkable meetings to be able to get some of that kinetic energy out of them. Okay, that might be one thing. We're going to take a look to see how it is that they come into a state of calmness. So that's going to be one of the things we'll do to evaluate their own kit and package that is needed. The other component really is, as they're kind of moving forward, is recognizing that that fight or flight response keeps them from actually getting to that state of calmness. So it's a matter of really developing out those plans overall. So different things depending on the person and the leader really as to what we can do, and to help them get to that state. And so for some people, it might be the breathing techniques that work best, and that's wonderful. It's usually a combination, and it's really when they feel like they're in flow and when they're losing track of time, that is when you're in the most parasympathetic, part of your mind. Have you ever been in just like that flow?
Yeah, you
So
look and go, an hour went by. You might be reading something, maybe watching something, working on a project. So that's where you want to get us, is in that flow.
right. You definitely want to be in that flow. Yeah. And for most people, especially living here in the United States, they are predominantly in their fight or flight response throughout the day. And so it's about short little techniques that we're going to incorporate throughout the day to help bring the physical body back into homeostasis and to help connect so that you have a clearer mind to come up with better decisions. But you have to do it. So some people say to me, well, Mara, I get up in the morning and I meditate for 20 minutes, and that should be pretty good for the rest of the day. But if your body goes into that fight or flight response, if your mind is racing throughout the day, then unfortunately, no, it's not going to help and support you. So we've got to figure out a way to transition that throughout the day, not just that one point. Yeah.
I'm glad you said that, because I used to do that, thinking, I get up 5 o'clock in the morning, 5:15, I'll meditate for 15 seconds, just be quiet. But then 2 hours later, you get that email that something's blowing up in your project or whatever, you fight flight again.
Yeah.
So what you're saying is jump back in your meditation or breath work, whatever you do, jump back into it. Use that tool.
Yes. Yeah.
So it's
And
like,
go ahead. Well, you'll find too that when you have a problem you're dealing with and you're in that fight or flight response, if you allow yourself to get over to the parasympathetic, to relax and just kind of come to a state of calmness, in 10 minutes, you can get a clearer thought as to what to do next with that problem or situation. So I do different techniques with leaders to say, try this out. And it's amazing how quickly they can get a thought process or the next step that they need to do rather than ruminating in it, right?
Yeah. I was going to say that I'm a sports guy. It's a wellness playbook.
Yeah, it
And the
is.
playbook's different for every team. So XYZ company, and in your case, it's different for every individual. If there's 5 CEO or 5 board of directors, each one's going to do something a little bit different that they're
A little
comfortable
different.
with.
Yeah.
And they could take this playbook, we'll just use that phrase, to their home as well. So some fight and flight hits at home. Maybe the wife is like, you're 2 hours late, you didn't communicate that. Jump back into it again.
Right. Absolutely.
Powerful.
And that's that self-awareness component, right? That's when you recognize, oh, wait a second, I've switched back into fight or flight, and I know I can do something about it. So which tool do I want to pull out to help regulate and to kind of get myself back into that centered place where we want to be? Yep.
Mara, you just gave $1 million tip. Because I'm thinking, how much is it worth to you, CEO, male or female? You come home, you had a tough day at work, you now get in this negative communication with your spouse or your kids or whoever, but you're able to use this tool to handle and get out of the fight or flight, go back into homeostasis, and now you have a better family life.
Mm-hmm.
I know for a fact, talking to experts like you, that when you can do that and go back to work the next day, problems come at you, you can handle it, which means you're going to be a better company, which means more profit, which means everybody wins down the road. That's why this, because people go, you say that once in a while. I said, this truly is, because we can't, what's the word I want to use, Mara? We can't put in data, but I know when personal life, your family life, your personal life's going well, it's easier to run your business.
Absolutely. Yeah.
Yeah.
And then what's fascinating is I used to work up on the Hill. And so there's 535 legislators in Congress. What always fascinated me was each legislator set the tone for how their office was going to be by their leadership style. So if the legislator was friendly and warm, usually the office would tend, basically to be friendly and warm. If it was more of an aggressive legislator, you would find that the office would, just seem to be a little more aggressive. And so you think about that from a leadership perspective. When you're more centered, when you're able to balance yourself, be aware of what's taking place, and then regulate yourself, that trickles down into your team too. And so that helps them with the same.
Yeah. I love it. Yeah. In audience, think of it this way. That's how I think of my image. You walk in somewhere and somebody's screaming and yelling at people, and there's a lot of that screaming, negative screaming, not screaming like, hey, we just won. Or you walk into an office where it's peaceful, people are laughing, people are talking, they're smiling, the body language is very positive. Audience, just think about that. This is Mara's talking about. This is what she does. Do you want the former or the latter? To me, it's the latter. And I think all of you can understand, because I talk about all the time in customer service companies, like a grocery store or restaurant. You scream and yell at people, it just turns the whole culture of your business down. But if you go, hey, I'm having a problem, can I get help? Now it's positive and people are excited about it. So we're coming to close to the end here. I read you have the 8 dimensions of wellness. Now this is selfish, but I hope the audience is going to want to know too. What are those?
Oh, that's great. So the 8 dimensions of wellness are actually, it's evidence-based information from Rutgers University. And what I love about this is it really helps to take a look at the whole person. I will tell you, it's only a snapshot in time, right? So when you take the questionnaire, basically, when you start to think about each of these dimensions, it's only that snapshot in time, because it could change, a day later, whatever. But basically, it's a wonderful for giving some insight as to where you might be lacking. So there are 4 internal, which are mind, body, emotions, and spirit, however you wish to define spirit, and 4 external. Let's see if I can get them. They're social, career, financial, and environmental.
Wow. So there's an assessment somebody could take and kind of get a feel where they're sitting.
Absolutely. They're welcome to email me and I'll be happy to send them the assessment. So yes.
There's a servant's heart giving away something free to help you grow, audience. I mention that all the time when I see something free, because you're a servant's heart. You're going to give stuff away free, not worry about the money. That will come down the road. We won't get into that. Last quick question. Wellness and the woo-woo, and how do you get past that going, this is not woo-woo. This is really important for people's lives.
Yeah, I mean, I really believe that emotional intelligence and the two dimensions of self-awareness and self-regulation explain it in a more concrete way about how that then really impacts your performance. There are certain aspects to it that can seem woo-wooey, but at the same point, really what you're talking about is becoming much more aware of your entirety, your wholeness. And that's actually a good thing, to be able to then show up in a different way, but also to be aware of yourself in a broader approach to be able to engage as well as a leader. So that's my way of defining it. Does that sound like a good way to define it?
It's so well. And then add the component of it's been around thousands of years.
Right.
I know I'm
That's
bringing it up again, but if you work with somebody that's a heart surgeon, they've only been doing heart surgeries for a month or 15 years, if you had a choice, you'd probably lean on the person with experience.
that's true.
And it's the same thing with tools. If they've been around here thousands of years, I used to poo-poo on them. I used to go, I was a woo-woo guy. Oh, yeah. My mind's completely changed, partly because of talking and listening to people like you going, hey, it's part of life. People are doing it every day all over the world and succeeding. Why not us?
Right.
Oh, I love it. I love it. Well, I want to end with a very fun question because you're always smiling. You've got such a great attitude. I love it. And you want to help people. So you have a reservation at a restaurant. It's a table of 4.
Okay.
You're going to occupy obviously one of the seats. The other 3 seats, who would you invite, dead or alive? Why would you invite them? And what food would you order?
Oh my gosh, what a great question. Wow. All right, let's see. Oh my goodness. So who would okay, let's see. I would invite let's see. I would be fascinated to invite Gandhi, in particular because the reason on that one is just because he lived in such a diverse world and was able to bring unity together. And so would love to hear his thoughts as to how we might be able to work with unity. The next one would be, Nate, I'm gonna get his name wrong, the comedian Nate he was
Bergazzi.
just, you forgot.
Yeah, just on Saturday Night Live. Yeah.
Yes. Just saw him and I just love the way he looks at life. And I think he's so funny. And I think a big component of this is life is about being lived, right? So you have to love what you do. You have to love just every moment that while you're here. So I would love his perspective. And my final person would be, let's see. Gosh, that's such a great question. It would probably have to be another leader that I just admire. And gosh, who would it be? I would even say someone like Simone Biles, because she has gone through so much and has succeeded. I mean, in resiliency. And so actually I would love to have her be a part of that discussion too. And
I
then
love Simone to talk to Gandhi. Sorry to interrupt, but I'm just thinking what a conversation those two would have.
yes. Yes. Yeah, I think it would be fascinating.
Yeah.
Yes, so I think that would be my group. And what would we eat? I guess, family style Italian food, just to be able to appreciate and to be there. I should say something healthy. It should be like a big garden salad probably, but something family style so that we can just sit and really hear one another and appreciate the time together in community, I think.
Well, Italians would tell you it's healthy because I'm
Okay.
Italian and grandma used to tell me it's always healthy. It can be and it cannot be either. But if you get family style Italian, I'll grab a seat, make it a 5th seat because
Yeah,
I
come on,
love
come
that.
join us.
Yeah, and it's so much fun. I love that you said that because you're just grabbing your food, talking and chatting. Not that a plate sitting down, somebody brings you a plate is not a bad thing here, but I love the family style.
Yeah.
Mara, you are a blessing because you have a business that you really changing lives and changing other people's lives. If you help those executives, you're helping their team. So indirectly, you really helping their whole team and helping those people to grow and make money and take care of their families as well. Kind of a unique way of looking at it, but I truly believe that. Audience wants to know more about you and how to support you. How can they connect with you?
Sure. So thank you very much, Steve. This has been so much fun being with you. So best place is really through my website. So it's www.truenorthexecutivecoaching.com. And they're free. Like I mentioned, I'm happy to give the 8 dimensions of wellness. So you can just email me at mara@truenorthexecutivecoaching.com too.
And we'll have other information on the show notes, so don't worry about that. Audience, if you can't write that down, and we'll take care of that for you. And also, too, I want you to talk, it's call to action here is subscribe to the YouTube channel, because she'll be out in a couple of days on YouTube. And it's, again, I'm going to say people, you subscribe, you make money. You don't make a lot of money subscribers. What I want you to do is be able to go back to this show if it resonates with you and learn more. There's a lot of information. I have my notes. You might want to go back and go, commonness. What was she saying about commonness, or the 8 dimensions of wellness? It's a powerful tool. When you subscribe, again, it's free. You go right and find her podcast and be able to listen to it. The other important thing is you got a family and friends says, you know what, just struggling. Our business is struggling. Wellness, ding, 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 ding. You can share this podcast with them and go, hey, listen to that, Mara. I think you're going to resonate with that. It's a great way of sharing information about somebody because you see her passion. I feel it exuding out of her. Why not let your family and friends? Because guess what? That's a servant's heart. You bring them some great resource like that. If you can help them out, we all win. And as always, me and Mara want to thank you so much for watching and listening, because this is all about you guys, not about us. If you learned, if you motivated, inspired, we're so happy that you watched. And we'll see you all in the next episode of Doing Business with a Servant's Heart. Have a great day, everyone.